being a woman in my space, in tech and in corporate, you constantly are thinking, are they here to date me or are they here to work with me? Are they here to do business with me or do they want to get in bed with me? So that's always in the back of my mind.
What I learned, and when I asked a lady at the pet shop, and she said the fish will grow as big as their environment. This is exactly a great analogy for your success. And there is a quote by a writer called C. Joy Bell C. And she says that, if you don't venture out of the pond that you're living in, you'll never know that there's an ocean or a sea.
And especially successful men, they're not scared. Like they know what they want. And when they want it, like they'll make it very known.
Yeah.
So like I've had transactions in business with men, and out of nowhere, they would like book a plane ticket to go to Spain with them for like the weekend or a week. If you do something for long enough, you will always be good at it. So I feel like when people are wanting to give up, just remember the reason why you started and just stick it out. Because if you stick it out long enough, I promise you, it will always end good.
I'm Luke, and you're listening to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast. It's a blessing to be alive, and I'm pretty blessed to be sitting with an extraordinary person. Her name is Belinda Agnew, and she's joining us today for this episode. She's a successful entrepreneur, managing partner at X Enabler, and obsessor of all things tech, and your resident startup fanatic. She's here to inspire others to realize the impossible is possible. So welcome to the Luke Mind Power Podcast, Belinda.
What an intro. You're a pro at this.
Is that all right?
Yeah, that was amazing.
Yeah, cool. Awesome. Well, welcome to my podcast.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, man. Are you ready for this conversation? It's going to be pretty awesome.
I'm actually pretty fucking nervous. Yeah,
that's
I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but this is good. This means we're going to grow. Because, before you came, I was sitting here going, and I'm looking at your website and I'm like, damn, I'm reading all this stuff and I'm like, far out, man. Like, I don't even know all of this stuff about you.
It's so confusing,
but it is.
Right?
It's looking at it and it's like, damn, like you do so much. And obviously it didn't happen overnight, right? Once you read that, you go, all right, this is someone that you would want to network with or connect with. But how did this all start? And I know that there's a big story. Like, people are going to be like, well, how do you know Belinda? I'm like, well, there's a big story to that. We'll go into that later. But where did the obsession or the relentless mindset for you come for you to like become this powerful woman?
I think for me, it came from my mother. From a really young age, I had to really survive, right? So I didn't really have anybody to rely on. I didn't have a father to look up to. I didn't really have siblings. I didn't have a really strong surrounding. So I had no choice but to really go out on my own and survive. Like, I had to put food on the table. I had to put a roof over my head. So that kind of came really early to me, not knowing that I was going to be an entrepreneur. I literally was doing this to get money. Like, it was money. I was money hungry. And I think from there, I found that I had a huge passion for sales and I was really good at selling and I could sell pretty much anything. And I think that's kind of where I fell into entrepreneurship, not really trying to look for it. It came to me. So when I was with Danilo for 8 years, and that story was like incredible. Like, what happened? It happened so fast, so quick. I was poached by a guy that ran a really successful company. He came to me and he was like, let's go into partnership together. Let's do something together. Come work for me. And I said, look, I don't know if I can work for anybody anymore because I was super bullied in every industry that I was in. I don't know if Danilo ever told you the story, but I was bullied politically by men and I was the youngest and I was outperforming everyone. So everyone was really threatened and they would put me down based on, she's a woman and she looks like this. So that's why, you're in this position and things like that. So I said, no, let's work together. And he's like, okay, let's do it. And that's kind of where it happened for me in business. And it was my first business, Open Education.
So when you go back to, let's go back to the first moment where you realized that I was good at sales, for example.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, in order for you to actualize all of this that you've done in your life, there's some level of confidence that you have to have in yourself. But at the beginning, you say, well, we don't have confidence at the start. It's like, in order for you to break through to something, you have to take action and like lean into it, right? So what was that moment for you that you realized, like, freaking hell, I'm good at this?
I think, even till now, I'm not fully, I am self-aware, but I'm not fully self-aware of myself. Back then, I was not confident at all. I was just winging everything.
Okay. So
I was just showing up.
So many people say, fake it till you make it. And they say that's bullshit. And I go, but I think it's like, when I started doing what I'm doing, I wasn't confident.
That could be an element
I had to take action. I had to like put into work and face the fear.
Yeah.
And then I grew.
Yes.
But people say that fake it till you make it is like it's wrong or it's not right or have you heard it?
I think that, that could be an element to it. I think I definitely faked it till I made it, like a bit of it. But I think it was putting myself into it and then found that I was really good at it and that just elevated my confidence. Yeah, and then I did it again and then I won again and then I like stepped up again.
Yeah,
do you get what I'm saying?
So I feel like it's the wins in terms of the fact that you don't know the product or what you're doing. It's more about like just you feeling that you can deliver what you're trying to do. Imposter syndrome. Yeah. People struggle with that because they're like, am I qualified? Can I really do this? Like, are people going to believe me or work with me? And it's like, how did you overcome that?
I still haven't overcome it. Yeah. Like I literally have a speaking gig tomorrow and I've been thinking about it for the last week and a half. Mm-hmm. It's freaking me out because I think as you level up, you open up different doors to different set of people. Mm-hmm. And every single time you're literally just a little guy in that room. So it's like you have to constantly keep proving yourself. You have to constantly suffer from imposter syndrome because when you level up and you're in these rooms, you're like, holy shit, like I don't belong here. Like why did I deserve to be here? Like why do they want to work with me? And you start to question yourself and your abilities. So I think imposter syndrome, I feel it hasn't ever stopped. I feel like it stays.
Yeah.
As you level up. I'm not saying that it's as bad as it used to be, but it's still there.
There's always going to be another level that you're going to have a bit of fear or there's going to be some self-doubt. And, you either have a choice. Do I allow it to control me or do I face it?
Pretty much, yeah.
And you can stop and go, you know what, this speaking gig is giving me too much anxiety. I'm getting too nervous and I'm not going to do it.
I was going to cancel literally a few days ago.
And so that's how you can stay on the same frequency or you can grow.
100%.
Right? So that's pretty powerful, man. And do you feel proud of like what you've achieved so far?
Oh, so I'm so grateful. Like, honestly, like I don't even know how all this shit has happened to me. Like, I'm not saying like I'm not in a position where I want to end up. I'm forever growing. But I think I'm so grateful for the people that believed in me and that want to work with me. Yes, it's been questionable as I get older because, being a woman in my space in tech and in corporate, you constantly are thinking, are they here to date me or are they here to work with me? Are they here to do business with me or do they want to get in bed with me? So that's always in the back of my mind and it's just a really different vetting process for me versus a male. So I think that's something that I'm still trying to really figure out.
Yeah, you have to really be in your power, right? To like, and you have to just be so like conscious of like the energy and the connection and everything because you got to learn how to read, and be really direct. Because if you're not direct, man, like you're going to give the wrong impression and they're going to be like, oh shit, well, I'm in. Right?
Yeah.
And it's like crossing the boundaries when they shouldn't be. When it's really like, no, this is just a business relationship.
Yeah.
Right. So how have you handled that? Because obviously physical appearance, your energy, who you are, what you do, is like you said, it can come across in a challenging way for you because people perceive things differently and it can take away the focus of what you have and what you're trying to achieve. So how do you deal with that, with like being in what you're doing?
Again, it's still something I'm still trying to figure out. But in saying that, like I say to women, literally tomorrow.
That can make people feel like afraid to even go in because there's too much to deal with.
Yeah, women struggle a lot in this space. And this is the conversation we're having tomorrow on the panel is literally about women in corporate and women in tech because it's so male dominant. There's a very small percentage of us that are really working in the space because it's really hard, we get these things. But I'm not a feminist, right? Like I love men, and if it wasn't for men, I wouldn't be in a position I am in today. There's no way. Like most of my dealings are with men. Most of my mentors are men.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't bash men for anything.
Mm-hmm.
They've elevated my career. But I think you can get to a point where you feel like they want to just date you or they want to have a relationship with you, but it's just being direct and asking the right questions. Like, is this a professional transaction or is this something else? If it's something else, I'd love to know. Like, you just have to be really transparent and open from day one. You don't let that go until like the third, fourth, sixth time. You need to be if you feel something is not right, you need to be very direct from day one, because I can see a lot of blurred lines along the way that can happen and has happened. And I think also women need to forget the whole, looks and being a woman. Getting someone into a room, amazing. But that person has a choice whether they want to stay with you in that room or they want to go on a journey with you. So a lot of women feel like, oh, I can attract whoever I want and I can do whatever I want, but can you actually keep them? It's a whole different thing. So I think that has allowed me to be more confident with dealing with men, because I know my value that I can give. And I believe that I can give a lot of value. So I don't always use that woman, the looks or, my energy or being a woman or whatever. It's much more than that.
And have you had moments where you felt the energy or you felt like something was crossing your boundaries and you had to be really direct and like?
Oh, yeah, of course. I've had crazy experiences. Like men have, and especially successful men, they're not scared. Like they know what they want, and when they want it, like they'll make it very known.
Yeah.
So like I've had transactions in business with men, and out of nowhere, they would like book a plane ticket to go to Spain with them for like the weekend or a week
without telling you.
Just like as a surprise. Hey, like, do you want to come away with me? Let's, experience this together. And then obviously that's so when, things have obviously crossed,
Buying is like the push to go, I've already bought the ticket, so you have to come with me.
Yeah.
And it's like, damn, that's stupid. Like, why can't you just be direct and say, hey, listen, I want to go to Spain. Would you like to come with me?
Well, I've had lots of these guys play games. Like the EAs have like messaged me because they're too scared to come to me. So they'll like get their EA to email me and try and organize a date.
Oh,
but they won't disclose the person.
Yeah, right.
And they're like, if you say yes, then we can tell you who it is. And I'm like, I'm not going to say yes to some stranger. Like, I don't do blind dates. Like, tell me who it is.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's
interesting because I, even so, look, let's just bring it in right now because people who are listening know who DJ Danilo is.
Oh shit!
and you mentioned his name earlier on, but we've been best friends for like 22 years, 23 years now.
Shit.
Yeah, that long. And so for everybody listening, and you guys know me because obviously what I do and stuff, but Danilo's my best friend, and Belinda dated Danilo for 8 years back in the day. So it's pretty you're like, oh my God, really? Yeah, this is who I'm talking to. So it's pretty crazy. But I mean, let's go back there because what do you remember about me? Because I was there. I was hanging around.
This is, I actually hated Luke. It was a love-hate relationship. Look, I think when party days, loved you. But outside of that, and I was always saying to Danilo, like, he's just not good for you. Like, you need to stay away. I don't want him around the house. I don't, like, he's bad energy. He's not good for you. I know you love him, but he's not, trust me, he's not the guy that's going to allow you to grow. Like, he's holding you back.
Yeah, that's funny.
That's how I remember you. But it was such a love relationship too, because like Danilo loved you to death. And I was like, this is his best friend. He obviously sees things that I don't see. So of course, like there was a part of me where I wanted to like, love you and be fun and, be myself around you. But also I had a lot of walls up, like boundaries, there was so many boundaries because I don't know how much you've like disclosed about yourself, but back in the day, you were pretty crazy,
Yeah,
I was crazy too.
Yeah.
But you were crazier.
What, you mean like using shit?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you were crazy, and
Yeah.
it wasn't. I think, look, all that's fun and whatnot back in the day when you're kids to do those things, but I found that you were kind of stuck in your life, and it was holding back Danilo, because you would constantly call and ask to go out on weekends and do things, and I'm like, already know what's going to happen, and I'm like, no. And I'd be a control freak. I'm like, you're not going. Like, it's not happening.
Yeah. So, it's interesting because I remember you guys meeting at Home Nightclub.
I know, Home Bar.
And I remember that, right?
Gosh.
So
I was underage, I think. I snuck into that club.
Yeah. So like the thing is, like, you were not as obviously successful as you are now, but you still had a specific mindset of, like, aspiration, ambition.
Always, yeah.
Right. And so if you were to look at who you were then and who Danilo was, it wasn't really a match still. Like, you were still on another frequency than him.
Totally. But the way I look at it
because
is,
as your relationship evolved, you could see, like, you were the one that was making the money.
Yes.
Right? So you kind of go, well, in relationships now, it's like you want to attract someone who's on your frequency. If you attract someone who's less than, it's always one has the power of the other, and there needs to be a balance, right? So how did that work for you for so long?
It's so interesting because I speak about this all the time to my girlfriends, like, because, I struggle in relationships and we talk about this ongoing. And Danilo, the reason why Danilo lasted so long in my life and all the other exes didn't is because he was so not just supportive, but he was a beta. And alpha, I was very alpha back then. Alpha women do really well with betas because the beta is like the feminine, side, and then the alpha is more masculine. So that's why we worked so well together. Whereas, my previous relationships, they've all been alphas. And alpha with a bit of alpha and a bit of feminine, we always had butt. So it was a constant competition, and I would never listen, and we were just constantly headbutting. So I feel like it worked for us because Danilo just listened and he was submissive.
Yeah.
He was submissive, yeah.
To your power.
Very submissive. So anything I would say, he would do. Anything I would, like, if I'd be like, we're moving next week, this is what's happening, this is our life, he'd be like, sure, let's do it. Whereas other guys would be like, what are you talking about? We're not going anywhere. Let's talk about this,
Yeah. Would you say it's like, kind of like vulnerability as well? Like, he was a bit more vulnerable?
No,
because
he wasn't really. He wasn't really vulnerable.
Yeah, okay.
He held a lot in. He still does a little bit. He's still got a lot that he's working through, but he's very easygoing, very submissive. Back then, not so much now, but back then he was very like whatever. I could do whatever I wanted, and he wouldn't question me. He wouldn't tell me what to do. He wouldn't.
So you had the freedom,
me.
which is, but that's healthy. Like,
free.
You should have a relationship that makes you feel free. You shouldn't have a relationship that makes you feel like I'm in jail.
I think if a woman wants to be in their feminine energy, they need to be somewhat led.
Of course.
By the man.
Yeah, 100%.
And I wasn't getting led in any way by Danilo. Do you get what I mean? There's a balance. Like, you need to be led, you need to be told, but also you need to be loved, supported, feel free at the same time.
Yeah, well, I really didn't like you much either.
Oh, thank God. I'm like, fuck, I hope he doesn't turn around and say he liked me. And I'm like, shit, I feel terrible.
And I'll be honest with you, and I've spoken to Danilo about this before,
did tell me,
that I think I was jealous a lot for many years from him and the relationships that he would attract. But that also showed me how insecure I was about myself.
Like projecting.
Well, it wasn't that. Like, it was just more that I'm observing, and obviously it didn't make me feel good. I wasn't the kind of friend that was like completely unconditionally happy for him, because that wasn't happening in my life. Right. So, and I've talked to him about that, and like, that was a big moment for us when I actually opened up about that to him.
How long ago was this?
2019, 18.
Wow.
19.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, because I was just like, I need to like let him know, like, and be real, because if you want a healthy relationship, whether it's a friendship or partner or whatever, authenticity is the key.
Oh.
And if you
With
can't be
anything in
real,
life.
if you can't be real, then it's fucking fake. Why have a friendship or relationship that's based on lies and you not showing up and being authentic, you know? So that for me was like, and that was where I was starting to step into like Luke Mind Power and being myself, not trying to conform or be like anybody else or take on, you know, religion or culture or what my family wants me to be or the world wants you to be, right? It was me trying to figure myself out. And I started to learn that, you know, vulnerability and speaking my truth and being authentic was the key to freedom, you know? So then opening up to him about that was like a game changer because it just made our friendship even stronger.
I just got goosebumps when you were saying that.
It's real, and the other thing is that people, like, we've been living together for it's been a year and a bit now, and we've been supporting each other on this journey for the last few years. And, you know, people obviously see us living together and hanging out all the time. They think we're gay. We've had my sister's friend.
Oh, wait, I did ask Danilo at one point last year.
My sister's friend, we're at dinner in Cockle Bay, and she's like, "Are you and Danilo together?" And I'm like, "What?" Literally. And the thing is, like, because in the past that would have probably triggered me. Because I was very insecure and
you were very homophobic, I remember as well back
absolutely,
then. You hated it.
Absolutely, because that's how I was raised.
You hated
right?
it so
like I
bad.
seen my mum going to church every time the Mardi Gras was on and praying for everybody that's going to the Mardi Gras. So what's that kind of make me think?
I get
that
it.
It's bad, that it's like, you know what I mean? So yeah, I was very against that, right? So I could have easily been triggered like by, you know, this comment, but I just laughed and I was just like, I can see how people could perceive that. Like I've seen comments on social, you know, because me and Danilo are dancing and shit and saying that like we're gay. Again, not to mention that there's not anything wrong with that. I'm just saying the perception of what people think of us, they don't really know.
Yeah.
The strength of like the time that's invested and the friendship, you know, it's pretty powerful. But one thing I want to ask you about this whole, you know, situation is because most people, after you break up with someone, man, it's gone. And you know how many people, like I know, I'm not going to go into names or anything like that, but he wants to get back with her. Why are you talking? Why are you still talking to your ex? Why are you still friends?
Yeah.
All this shit, right? And like I'm inspired by this, to be honest, because naturally you think, well, you've been with someone for 8 years, time to move on. You don't talk, you don't go back, don't go backwards, right? And you guys have had this like friendship like ongoing for quite some time now where you're not in a relationship. You don't want anything to do with each other in that kind of context, but you still are able to converse, call each other whenever you feel like it and actually like hang out.
Literally.
Like how has that manifested?
I think there's still a bit of weirdness there from Danilo's side because he questions it sometimes. Like he'll sometimes like have like a reaction like, I don't know if we, you know, this is going to last anyway when I get a girlfriend. Like he'll just say something like that. I don't know. And I'm like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, I'm sure she'll be fine here. Like, no, like these are the conversations we have sometimes. And for me, I feel like whatever relationship I have from now with a man, like he needs to accept this situation. Because not many men will. Yeah. My ex accepted it. You know, my ex before that accepted it. But I think the one before that didn't. He was like, no, like that doesn't happen here. Like you don't have conversations with your ex. This is not a thing. And I think it manifested from, I don't even know if that's a word, is I didn't really have a strong family unit. And I think with Danilo as well, we're very similar. So he just has his mom. I just have my mom. Yep. So we kind of like relied on each other. Like it sounds really weird, like brother and sister, like almost like relationship of brother and sister and it was like, it's like a family, right? So I grew up with him. He kind of grew up with me and we grew together. Yeah. And to break that and to be like, that's it. Like, let's kind of just, I have my life, you have your life. Yes, we create our own families and things like that. But like, I want Danilo to come to my wedding. You know, I want him to be there. I want him to be at like when I have kids and stuff and vice versa. I think that's kind of where I see the relationship going. But I have this really like intuition feeling that I don't know if Danilo would feel like that in the future. Like with his relationships with women. Yeah. Because I know most women unfortunately haven't done a lot of inner work and a lot of women are quite jealous and a lot of women can be quite nasty. And there's so many other things to that. So I don't know, hopefully he meets the right person that accepts it. But, you know, I think a very high percentage wouldn't.
I know what you're saying. Yeah. But yeah, you're basically breaking the barrier of what most people would do is, don't talk to, move on. And then you have the relationship, the next relationship that you would say, well, I'm friends with my ex. She's a big part of my life. Where actually, and then the new person would say, no, I'm not comfortable with that.
Yeah,
so how do you
and also just to like say he knows everything about me. That guy literally knows everything. Like he knows too much. Like I can't cancel him out of my life. He knows so much about me. So I can literally just have a conversation with him and he just gets it.
Yeah.
It's like when you've got friends and you grow up with friends, and if they don't grow with you, you're like, do I just cut them out of my life? No, like that it just doesn't work like that. There's friendships that are there for reasons. And I feel like Danilo's in my life for a really big reason. And we aren't the same people we used to be back in the day. Yes, we are the same. We're similar, but we're not. We've grown as people. So it's not the same relationship.
Yeah, of course not. But it's pretty awesome that you guys can hang out, chill, talk, call whenever you feel like it, and still be able to just like not even worry about what happened in the past.
Yeah.
And like you said, brother and sister, as much as it sounds weird, but it's kind of like that.
That's how it feels like, yeah.
And it's pretty awesome. But yeah, going on like what you said about like whether or not someone would accept that or whether he would like vibe with coming to your wedding, or if it would be the same. I have a pretty close friend of mine and I was like, and we vibe so well, right? But she has her way, I've got my way, and I'm like, if I get a proper relationship, I said, you're going to have to like, respect that, because otherwise like it's not going to work. I can't be talking to you about this stuff while I'm in a relationship, or you can't be saying shit to me like we talk now, in a sexual context. Right.
Oh, right.
And I'm in a relationship. Right. But you have to respect that. So, and she's like, of course. Because I know that this person is someone that I can see myself working with possibly, or being in a future friendship long term. But it's like, I'm not going to let something that comes into my life, that they have to accept that. That's what I'm saying. Like you have a person that comes into your life and then you say that Danilo's my ex, but we're best friends.
Yeah.
And they go, well, I'm not happy with that.
Like what happens?
Yeah. Like how do you make someone understand that or appreciate it?
Well, I think
because you're gonna like, you really love this guy. Like I'm talking like you meet someone that's just fully aligned with like your success and on your frequency, and it's like, wow, this is the guy that I've been waiting for. But and you say, oh, listen, I'm best friends with my ex, and he's going to go.
It sounds bad.
I know,
initially,
but it's not.
Initially, it sounds bad if you say it like that. They would obviously say no. But I think if he doesn't accept it, I don't think he's the right person.
Exactly.
Like the freak. Like,
absolutely.
Because for him to feel like I can't be friends with my ex makes me feel like he's insecure, and I don't want his insecurities projecting on me now and forever. Because when a man's insecure, they can project in so many ways that I wouldn't really want that in my life. So I think that's a conversation that needs to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's pretty much that's a great response.
But I don't feel like Danilo would be like that.
You think for him it would be the opposite?
He'd
like if he was in a relationship,
he'd be like, no problem.
She would,
no problem, babe.
Stop talking to Belinda because I love you more.
1,000%.
You reckon?
I think there's a big part he would be submissive. Yeah.
He'll listen to this.
He'll listen.
That's funny. It's the confidence in yourself, and it's also knowing your worth and knowing that, you don't have to be jealous or worry about anything. And I think when you establish that in a connection, it doesn't matter who the people are.
1,000%.
You've come through like a lot to get to where you are right now. What's been the hardest thing that you've had to deal with that has hurt you the most? You said you've done a lot of inner work. So
no, I haven't done a lot of it. I've done bits and pieces.
And you've learned a lot. I can hear it.
Yeah, I've done bits and pieces, but I haven't done a lot.
But what has been something that's been really hard for you that has potentially even been your driver as to like why you're so ambitious and like, climbing new heights all the time?
I thought for a while it was because of my mom. Like I just wanted to take care of her, and I felt like I wanted to kind of prove to her and like the world. But I think for me, as I get more deep into the work, it's actually an obsession. As soon as I reach something, what's next? Like, and I feel like when people are addicted to the gym, that's how I feel with what I do. Like, I feel like it's an actual addiction. And I think this stems from a lot of trauma that I may have in the past or, in my upbringing as a child and things like that. So my psychologist and my coach says it could have gone two ways. It could have gone drugs, alcohol, sex, really bad state, or the other way, which you've done, which is success. You're very driven, and a lot of that kind of hides, and kind of gets rid of the trauma, as well as like taking alcohol and drugs. So I think that could be parts of it. And that's why it's such an addiction and an obsession, because I can't stop. And it's like every time I try to take a breath, it's like I add on something else, because I don't believe in balance. It's either you want it, and if you want it, you'll do everything in your power to make it work. But if you just want a balanced life, it just means to me that you don't really want it enough.
That's deep, man.
Yeah. So I think it's interesting though, right? Like it could have gone two ways.
Yeah, absolutely. And I
think,
know I've got clients of mine that are massively successful, but they're still hurt.
Totally.
And
a lot of it's from trauma.
Where did it come from? It's like, wow. And that's why I always say, if you are successful in your professional life, but you're hurting, do you know how much more powerful you would be if you actually had peace?
Totally.
Like you're limited. You're getting what you're getting on the outside. Great.
Totally.
But once you start doing this work internally, you become superpowered.
Totally.
And it's like, that's why you think about it, right? How many billionaires or really, really massively successful people have you heard of that have committed suicide?
There's heaps.
Why?
There's heaps.
Why isn't money enough?
It's never enough. Money's never enough. It's it's an object to help us, to get to the things that we want to do. But it's money is not the ultimate thing. For me, it's free. Like I need freedom. Like that's actually the highest value in any relationship that I have. Like the biggest value for me is freedom. Like I need to feel free.
And is that's where the obsession is though?
Yeah.
It's like, because the more money I make, the more free I am to be able to just be in control of my life.
Correct. And like more no's I can do, less yeses to the things that I actually really want to do.
So what you're doing right now, obviously, gaining more wealth and continuing to invest in your startups, and you've got your own podcast as well, which is startups and unicorns, which you've interviewed a pretty powerful people on there as well, which is amazing. Congratulations.
Thank you.
But like you continuing to grow and build more wealth, right? The one thing that I'm interested to know is, we talked about, like my dad, I asked him a question and I said, what's the purpose of life? And he said, to grow, right? And I was like, wow, so simple, and that's why you're saying, like, when I get to this level, then I'm like, okay, what's next? So there's always another level. There's always more opportunities. And that's really what keeps life going. If you stop, what are you going to do? Just stay where you are. So there's fulfillment in moving, right?
Totally.
But when you gain more wealth, what are you doing with that? And how are you using that to change the world? How are you making a positive impact in the world by what you're gaining? As much as you have to take care of yourself and, your family and all that kind of stuff, and you have your freedom. But what are you doing with that? Is there anything that you're kind of like working on, or do you think about that right now, or is that something?
Totally. I totally think about that. The reason why I do everything that I do now is because I want to just be a full-time angel, which is like an angel. For people that don't know, an angel investor is, it's your money and you invest into entrepreneurs that you love, like that you want to work with, and you give them money to help them start their business. So that's what I want to do full time, because I think that's something that I just love hanging out with entrepreneurs. I love it. I love having conversations about business. I think that's one. And then the second thing is I would love, this is so so random. I would love to open up an animal sanctuary. I think that's like one of my goals for sure.
Animal sanctuary. Like a zoo?
Not a zoo, like an animal sanctuary where you save dying animals out of, crazy situations.
Yeah, well, talking about saving animals, my pond at home, the filter broke and the fish was fucking dying. And I took the fish out And it was like the length of my hand, and I was holding it for about an hour because it was breathing, but it was like on flop. It was like.
But why didn't you just put it into water?
It was in the water, but the filter was not working because the pond was broken. And
Couldn't you just put it into a bathtub with some water for a bit?
I put it in there, but it was still just lying there. And I was like, come on, buddy. And I put the filter back on and I was holding it. And so I was holding it for about an hour because I was like pressing on it and trying to like get it to, breathe again and stuff. And it stayed alive for about a day. And then yesterday when I came back, it was not breathing anymore. So, I did my best, and I was like, I called it Troy, and unfortunately Troy didn't make it. And so I just went to the aquarium and bought 12 more fish to put him in the pond.
Oh my God, hopefully they don't die.
Nah, the filter's working. Everything's working now. But yeah, like, and you know what? One thing I learned, and thanks for sharing what you did, and it's great that you want to help animals. You feel connected to them because I feel very connected to like I love my birds and these fishies, right? What I learned, and when I asked a lady at the pet shop, and she said the fish will grow as big as their environment.
Wow, I've actually read a quote about this. It's so true.
And when I was thinking about what we're going to talk about, and I was like, this is exactly a great analogy for your success. And there is a quote by a writer called C. Joy Bell C. And she says that, if you don't venture out of the pond that you're living in, you'll never know that there's an ocean or a sea. And many people are just continuing to live in this pond that because it's familiar, it's comfortable, it's what they've known. And so they don't grow. Right. And so the fish, it's amazing because the fish is a great example that it will continue to grow as big as it wants, provided the environment that it's in. So if it's in a bigger environment, if it's able to be, it will grow more.
Yeah.
Right. And it's so relatable to us because if you don't take action, like for example, this for me, coming into the studio, right, connecting with you, connecting with the team, you don't know, like you said, you don't know what networking can do, the power of connection, the power of one person saying, hey,
1000%.
Like that's what this is all about. And this is how you grow, right? So how does that work for you in business? Like, are you constantly like moving around, trying to network, trying to connect with the right people? Like
my life is insane. I live out of a fucking suitcase, literally. Like I try to be, so everyone in my life is like, just stay at home, like stable. Like, and for me, I feel like when I'm at home and I'm in routine, because most people are in routine and at home, I'm actually the opposite. I can't be in routine. I actually wake up in the morning and I do what I feel. So if I feel shit and if I feel like lethargic or tired, or if my body is telling me something, I'll listen to my body more than what I have on my schedule. And if I feel like I want to go somewhere for the weekend, I'll book the flight and go. Like I don't really have a routine. I kind of do what I want, really. What I say to people, and I've been talking about this for ages, a lot of people come to me and say, oh, what time do you wake up in the morning? Like, what's your morning routine? And like, what do you do throughout the day? Give me like a day in your life. And I'm like, my day in my life is actually all over the fucking place.
Yeah,
It'd make you anxious as fuck. Like it would make people anxious. Whereas like my girlfriend, Lara, she's like the most routine person I know. She'll like wake up at 5 a.m. and Darcy knows she'll wake up at 4:30 or something, 5 a.m., journal, meditate, go for a walk, go for an hour gym. Then she'll start her work and then she goes journal, and she makes her food, preps her food 2 weeks or a week in advance. Like she's very routine. And that's what works for her.
Yeah, that's
what I'm trying to say is like, all these people like waking up at 5 a.m. and training and eating clean and doing all these things, that only works for those people. Like do what works for you. Like for me, that would not fucking work for me. I'd feel anxious and I'd feel chained. I'd feel like I'm in a box, like controlled by my routine.
I learned that early on that there isn't one way. I was learning from these entrepreneurs and I was like, okay, I've got to do it like this. And then I heard someone on stage say, I don't know if it was Lewis Howes or Tom Billion or Jay Shetty. I can't remember, when I was at the Mind Valley reunion in 2019.
Oh, no way. Fashen? Did you meet Fashen?
No, I didn't meet him, but I was there.
He's amazing.
He was like
the third guest on my podcast.
But listen, like this is
he hated me when I met him.
That was like my start of my journey.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, like that's amazing. Got me moving was Mind Valley. Like I started and did a course.
Wow.
Back in 2018.
I need to introduce you to Vishen. You should get him on your podcast.
Yeah, look, I already knew that I'm going to be on the stage at Mind Valley because that's what they're the ones that helped me.
Oh my God,
Lisa
that's
Nichols,
perfect.
the course was Speak and Inspire.
Yeah,
right.
wow.
And so that's what actually helped me wake up.
That's so cool.
And I know it's crazy, eh? But it doesn't, like, I'm all over the place.
Mm.
I don't have, like, I got asked on the podcast a couple of weeks ago, what's your routine? What's your morning routine? And I know that there's so many people out there that have this ritual, this morning routine that they do, but I don't do it. It's like sometimes I'm up at 5 a.m. and sometimes I'm at 6 and, you know, I just go and do what I need to do. You know, sometimes having a banana, sometimes I'm having watermelon. Sometimes I'm like, there's no like set breakfast or all this shit, you know, like I like taking a banana out and go and see the birds and they have some banana, you know, at 7 o'clock in the morning, you know? So
yeah,
that's one thing I've been doing consistently because I like hanging out with the birds.
They're good energy, like horses.
Absolutely. In that being said, look who we're like, do you know what we're doing? Like we're doing a podcast.
I know, so weired. And you hated me like
I know.
How many years ago?
Like,
and we didn't even like each other. And now we're fucking here doing a podcast. Wow.
You know, so it's
life.
But that's proof. That is proof for anyone who's listening and watching that you can change.
Totally.
And you can grow. And like who we were 10 years ago, like if you'd met us, like, well, I mean, for me anyway, like I was like,
no, even for me,
like completely different, you know, and people will still, you know, judge you according to the version of you that they know.
Wow. You need to repeat that.
Yeah.
Wow.
People will judge you still for the version of you that they know.
That is so true.
And because you grow so much.
Shit.
You know, and that's why, like, I don't know about you, man, but I'm so protective over my people that I surround myself with. I've grown so much that I don't want to go back. And there's the quote that says, you know, don't go back to that which hurt you. And I feel like where I was, it's not to despise anyone that I was grown up with, all my friends and stuff, but I just knew I got to this point where they came in my life for a purpose. I lived life with them for many years and I had to let them go. I had to stop. If I wanted to grow to the next level, I had to let everyone go. And that's why, you know, what I believe is sometimes in life you get to this point where you're like, you know, you have to question yourself, is this what I'm supposed to be doing? Is this who I really am? And this is the hardest part of saying, well, you know what, if you want to grow and you want to start fresh, like one of the things that's the hardest to do is to like let it all go. It's
so fucking hard. That's like the hardest thing to do.
Because if you can feel within yourself that you're truly not where you're supposed to be and who you are, it's like your soul is calling you.
Yeah.
And it's saying like, this is not your truth.
Yeah.
But your family wants you to be like this. You're programmed and conditioned by your environment, by your friends.
Totally.
And you know it, but like, that's why I know so many people out there are in relationships or their work or whatever, and they know that this is not for them, but because they're afraid of their in-laws, the parents, the friends, the judgment, and because of the fear of like the unfamiliar, what's on the other side. So they stay.
You actually just brought something to my attention that I just literally thought of. I remember back in the day when we used to hang out with Danilo and the crew and stuff, I do remember you being super curious. Like we would have conversations, you, me, Danilo and whoever else for hours. And you would be the guy that would do most of the talking.
Really?
Yeah. Do you remember that?
And
you would have these ongoing conversations and you were always curious and asking questions and like, why is that though? Or why do you, and you just really brought that to my attention. So I feel like maybe this was always in you. You just never really knew it until recently. Like you were always supposed to be here. Isn't that insane?
It is.
Crazy.
Like,
I just remember that.
Like I told my sister the other day, I was like, remember when you were when you were pregnant with your fourth baby? And, you know, she was having a few issues with her, you know, marriage and it wasn't really a big problem, but she was upset.
Yeah.
And I remember coming in and like talking to her husband, talking to her, consoling with her, supporting her.
Yeah.
You know, and so back then I was already doing it. You know, I was already getting into people and trying to help.
Yeah.
But, you know, again, I think that you got to go through a process first.
You do.
Before you have enough ammo or evidence or experience to be able to, because, you know, what I don't have is a degree. I didn't go to school and I didn't like it.
I fucking hated school.
I know. I hated it as well.
Most successful people hated
right?
school.
So what do I have? But I've got, like, when you say to me, what are your qualifications? My qualifications are that I've lived life.
Yeah.
And I've overcome shit and I haven't given up. And I went through my own experiences, which you can't buy. And you can't go and study. And you can't get a certificate.
It's true, yeah.
For what I've been through.
It's totally true.
And no one can get a certificate for what you've been through.
Totally true.
Right? So, and I get that a lot, you know, what qualifies you to do what you do? It's like, I qualify me. You feel my energy and you either vibe with it or you don't.
Or you don't, yeah.
Right? Yeah, it's pretty amazing that we're doing a podcast, and I'm really grateful that we, you know, got to hang out and share this space and time and learn a little bit more about you, because, you know, like, we've never really had a conversation like this.
I know, without alcohol.
Yeah, absolutely, because that's what it was. Like, back in the day, it was always drinking and partying, you know?
Yeah, crazy.
So where do you see yourself in 10 years' time?
10 years?
Yeah, like, what is Belinda? What is she doing? What is she like?
At least want to be married in 10 years' time. I can't wait to find the love of my life in terms of a husband. And I definitely want to be a mother. Like, I can't wait to be a mum. Like, I think that would be the most epic experience for me, because I've been in my alpha energy for so long, and I feel like that will really bring me into my feminine energy. I think that would be intense.
Does it bother you
to not be married?
That you're not in a relationship, that you're but I also think that because you're not in a relationship and you're not, like, held down in a way, that you're able to be this powerful force of what you're doing and who you're becoming.
I believe everything in life you choose, there's always a sacrifice.
Yeah.
So you have to make the choice of what you want to do now and have the sacrifices that comes with the sacrifices. So, for an example, I choose my career and I choose my growth and myself first.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, the sacrifice in that is not having a partner, a husband, kids, the whole family thing, right? But I know if I work on myself and I find myself more and I focus on my career and the things that I love, I feel like that will all come at the right time. But I know that this is the right journey for me, because if I chose the husband and the kids first, I probably would be divorced around the next 5 years. Mm-hmm. Single parent, you know, mother like my mum, which is something I definitely don't want to go through. So I feel like, you know, I'm totally where I need to be, and I trust God. Like, He guides me and I make a choice.
It sounds like you're very content with that.
I am, yeah, for now.
Because do you ever get triggered by people saying, "Oh my gosh, why aren't you in a relationship?"
I do. Last night I got triggered.
Why are you still single?
Yeah, last night I got triggered at dinner. One of my partners, because he doesn't really know me that well, but he actually asked me in a rude way. He said, he goes, "You're so attractive, Belinda. Like, I'm questioning to why you're still single. Like, is there something wrong with you?" Mm. Like, in that sense. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, actually, there's a lot of things wrong with me, but ultimately I chose to be single, I believe, because all the relationships I've been in, I chose to walk away. It wasn't the decision of them walking away. It was, you know, mutual after maybe a while, but I always chose to walk away, just because I feel, again, the growth thing, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, as you grow, and if that person isn't growing with you, it's really hard to stay with that person. Mm-hmm. Really, really difficult. And I'm like at a pace where I'm like, I just want to do shit. They have to keep up. I just want to keep going, and I love
even
it.
Be
I'm
doing
obsessed
more than
with
you.
it. I need a man that does way more than me. I'm not looking for that. I'm looking for like that and like me here.
Yeah.
In so many ways, because I want to learn. I want to be submissive. I want to ask for help.
Absolutely.
Like, babe, help me.
Yeah.
Help me. Like, Talk to me. Tell me, what am I supposed to do? That is what a woman's supposed to do, not a man.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to ask you one final question. We'll finish up now.
Yes,
because it's been pretty awesome.
It has.
And
intimate.
Deep.
Deep and intimate.
Yeah, but it's good. It's authentic, man. It's real. Yeah, absolutely. So the question for you is, if you could say one thing to anyone out there who's listening that is feeling like giving up or that they're not good enough, what would you say?
Oh, that's like a really deep question. Even for now, there's moments in my life I wake up, still today, I feel like I want to give up. Like I complain to my girlfriend sometimes over lunch and I'm like, why the fuck do I put myself in this situation? I could just go get a normal job, be in a high paid salary, get a decent amount of shares in a really big tech start or company or whatever the fuck, and I'd be set. I don't have to work weekends. I have to stress about, paying salaries or doing this or doing that and talking to this guy flying here. Like it's a lot. So I question myself constantly. What Naval says, Naval Ravikant is someone that I look up to a lot. I love that guy so much. And he said something in his book. He said, if you do something for long enough, you will always be good at it. So I feel like when people are wanting to give up, just remember the reason why you started and just stick it out. Because if you stick it out long enough, I promise you, it will always end good. Always. You just need to keep at it and keep going and going and going, even if it gets tough and you're like homeless on the street. Just always remember why you started it. Why did you want to do this in the beginning?
Yeah, but you would never go, well, I would go back to where I was 10 years ago. No way.
Never. I just remember why I started.
That's the best thing to do.
Yeah.
Hang on.
And that too, but I think I just remember why I started. Like, why am I doing what I'm doing? Yeah. And I think you just got to keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. And just let people know where they can follow you and find you.
LinkedIn is kind of my main platform. I'm not on TikTok like Luke and Danilo. But you can follow me on Belinda Agnew, or my website is belindaagnew.com.
Powerful. Thank you so much, Belinda.
Thank you so much, Luke.
Thank you for joining me on this journey of self-discovery and growth. If you're ready to grow and reach your full potential and find inner peace, send me a DM that says, I want inner peace, and I'll send you the next steps. You can accomplish anything you set your mind to. When you change your mind, you change your whole life. So don't hesitate and send that DM over to me. Myself and my team can't wait to meet you and witness your transformation in full glory. See you next week.